another day for our online class, and it's a record for lesson 4 for Edt811. I want to welcome you to another lesson, and today we are going to discuss about the principle of communication. We're going to enumerate the communication situation, and we're going to identify the barriers of communication, those that affect the effective communication, and the facilitator as well, those that can enhance our communication effectively. And then we also find solution to barrier of communication. I hope you will enjoy it. Let's sit back and enjoy ourselves. You're welcome. Hello, once again, you are welcome back to the class. This is our fourth week of this online class. This is Edt811, and the course title is Theories of Communication and Philosophical Base of Instructional Media. Once again, my name is Dr. Ayodeji Muideen Badmus. What are we going to learn today? Today we're going to learn how we mention the principles of communication. We have to also enumerate the communication situation. We need to identify and discuss the main barriers to effective communication and find preferred solution to the identified barriers of communication. So let's start with the principle of communication. There are so many principles of communication which are also related to what we talked about in the last lesson, that is the component of communication. So number one from the principle is a principle of readiness. Principle of readiness is referred to as when both the communicator and the receiver are ready and remain motivated throughout the process of communication. And in this regard, there is no room for lack of interest, and there's a enthusiastic on the part of the receiver and the sender, so which makes the communication to run very smoothly. The readiness on the part of the receiver and on the part of the sender, and it gives room for effective communication. The second one is the principle of possession of competent communication skill. So the communicator and the receiver should be quite competent and efficient in terms of communicating and receiving the desired information of message. So this is a great need of development of the required communication skills, so that the tasks of the communications in terms of transmission and the receiving may be performed by them, that is both the source, that is the sender, and the receiver effectively. So, and also the source of communication and which is a teacher, like in the classroom situation, must possess sufficient knowledge on what is given out. So on knowledge and the skill in communication. So this is also the principle that is required for effective communication. So the next one, we have principle of sharing and interaction. So the greater level of the interaction and the involvement of the source and the receiver, there must be participation between them, and the sharing of idea and keeping mutual interaction between the source and the source, that which is the teacher, and the receiver, which also referred to as a student in the class, as possible. So the sharing throughout the lesson, there must be an effective interaction. So this will definitely bring about the positive result to the process of communication. The next one is principle of suitability of the communication of content. So the message, which is the content of the communication, should be very suitable and easily understandable. So it should be appropriate on the part of the sender and the receiver. So the sender must be able to handle the communication content and being transferred to the receiver at the receiving end, and the communicated material should be suitable enough for grabbing and easily response from the receiver. So the communication material as well should have a definite purpose to make the communication more effective. So the next one is principle of appropriate media and channel. The effectiveness of the process of communication will really depend on the type of appropriateness of the media used, that is communication channel, the media used to transfer the information from the source and to the sender. So to make use of we have so many ways at which we can channel the information. So we have the verbal and non-verbal as a means of transferring information. The verbal, they are the one involving through talking, through expressing someone from information verbally, and the non-verbal is the true using of symbol and gesticulation, so gesture from the source, which is the sender, and to the receiver. The next one is principle of appropriate feedback. So the communication enjoy its effectiveness flow if they continue to receive the desired feedback from the receiver, and there is no communication when there is no feedback. So at times, most of the time, when you may call or when we are teaching in the class, as a teacher, if you teach and at the end of the teaching you ask question and the student do not give answer to that question, we have not taught. So the same thing goes with when we make call and the receiver still continues saying I cannot hear you, I cannot hear you, it means we've not communicated. So this principle is very, very important. Is what we can say to evaluate and see that we have really achieved the reason why we are making the communication. So it's very, very important. The next one is principle of facilitators and barriers of communication. There are two things there. The facilitators, they are the one that enhancing effective communication, and the barrier of communication, they are the one that hinder effective communication. So there are two things that may happen that may affect our communication positively or negatively. So if we are to talk and make our communication more effective, there are some gadgets or media that we can use to enhance our communication. And along the line, when we are talking or when we are doing our communication, there are some interference and that affect or noise that can affect our communication. All these things, they are very, very important to take cognizance of it, and so that we can achieve and have our effective communication. Now let's talk about communication situation. In some cases, they don't call it communication situation, they call it type of communication. Anyway, this is where any situation or any how that we can say that communication is taking place. Now the first one is one-to-one communication. This one-to-one communication is a form of communication that take place between two individuals. Most of our days to days activities, we have people talking together, like husband to wife, like a relative, like a customer, like a buyer and seller, and there are so many ways at which we can talk. In the classroom as well, teacher can call a student particularly to find out what is really happened to him or what is really going on with him, and so that he can learn better in the way of identifying individual differences. So this one is called one-to-one communication. The next one is small group communication. This involves communication among more than two people. So, and this one is also common, like in the classroom. Classroom now, the teacher with the student. This is small group communication. We have family meeting. These are, small group communication, and we familiar with the passenger in the commuter bus, and so many situations of this. These are referred to as small group communication. The next one, we have large group or public communication. This involves a large number of people or individual, and we have seen so many ways or so many situations in which communication is taking place, like in gathering, like a political gathering, like a school assembly, like there are so many at religion gathering. So these things are common, and as an electronic technology, we should know in a way or any way that we may find ourselves, and we should be able to think which appropriate media or which appropriate means at which communication could be effective. So the next one now is organizational or institutional communication. So this is a type of communication carried out within the premises of factory or any organization or institutional or no office, and it is common. Like the example that I may give is a banking industry now. The communication that information is within themselves, that it is belong to them and it is belong to them alone. We can refer to this as a closed communication. These are communication that is between four walls of that particular institution. So we have it like in a hospital, we have it like in the barrack, we have it in the government offices. It's a policy that could not go out of the offices. So this kind of communication referred to as organizational or institutional communication. Most of the time when we go to the bank, we may ask something as regard to our account or another person's account, and the banker or cashier can say that this is bank policy, they cannot reveal the information. So these are institutional or organizational communication. The last but not the least is mass communication. The mass, what mean by mass simply referred to as widely spread, something that spread widely to majority of people in a different location. So this is mass communication. The mass communication can be explained in three ways. We have one to many communication, we have many to one communication, and we have many to many communication. One to many is when presidential, we have presidents giving broadcast to the entire citizen. So this is one to many. And when we have many to one, and when we have a riot or we have protests from the people against the government, this is many to one. And when we have many to many, it's between when we have country to country, when there is debate between a school and a school. So it's a kind of horizontal communication when there is no hierarchy in that kind of thing, but it's of huge and large communication. That is many to many. So we have discussed about the communication situation. Let's have 20 seconds to answer this question. Identify five main situations of communication. Thank you. That is our class activities. I hope you've done it. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about barrier of communication. You could remember that I made mention during the principle of communication, we talk about the facilitators and the barriers of communication. Like I mentioned that the facilitators, they are the one that enhances, there are factors that enhance the effective of communication. But the barrier, they are the factor that hinder or affect the effective communication. So these are elements that obstruct the communication flow are regarded as a communication barrier. And there are so many ways at which this can affect the communication. So they can be explained into two. We have internal barrier and external barrier. The internal barrier, they are the ones that we cannot see and they are within ourselves. So let's take it one after the other. The internal barrier. So when we have poor physical health or illness, and there's no way is someone that is sick, someone that is not okay, that's not okay health-wise, so there's no way you will talk to that person and grab whatever the information that you are sending. So in the classroom situation, if a student is not well, is sick, and during the lesson the knowledge will not taken, and there will be problem. So there will be problem with the communication, and a student that is vomiting, teacher have to stop to take care of the student. So poor physical health or illness hinder effective communication. The next one is poor background in terms of the previous learning and general knowledge about the subject communication. That is when a teacher is failed to preview the previous lesson or take cognizance of any behavior of the student, so as there should be a connection between the last lesson and today's lesson. If there is fail in that regard, there will be problem in the communication. So, and at the same time, if the receiver is lack or has no background of the message before, it will take the sender much time to explain himself. So it's most of the time, if there is a problem, it affects the communication effectively. So The third one is poor mental health and improper psychological makeup, such as prejudice, non-attention, feeling of insecurity and anxiety. So this one comes, and in our society today, when there is depression, when there is broken home, when there is a lot of things happening, the high rise of commodity, and this can cause problem and non-attention in the classroom, even on the part of the sender, which is teacher, and on the part of the receiver, which is the student as well. So if at all there is a broken home on the part of the teacher, where the wife give a divorce letter to the husband and the husband is the teacher, there could be problem in the classroom. And this and on part of the student too, when the student come from the broken home as well, they are living with a parent, and most of the time there are problem with between the two parents, so it can affect attention of the students, because he may be thinking of what happened at home. So that is that about that. The next one is handicap in understanding the symbolic expression, verbalism, graphical representation. So there we have different type of students. There are some that their handicap is seeing what is on the board uh, graphically. They find it difficult to understand what is being drawn, and what is being seen. It depends on this kind of student. So as a teacher, it's our duty, it's our work to know this kind of handicap area among the student. So the next one is poor visual literacy. So whatever we may bring to the class for students to see, whatever might be the picture of what we are saying, to be visually okay. So be even like in social material, if you are using chart and you place it on the wall, it should be very clear and to the student, so that it serve what is meant to serve. So but in a case where we put something on the wall and students trying to say, okay, what does that thing look like? So it does not display, or it does not exhibit what exactly what is supposed to do. So that is poor visual literacy. The next one is poor hereditary and train development. It happens, and it's common with some of students that their background for whom they could happen that both of the parents, they are not educated, they know nothing about the student, so it could be, and the student also find it difficult to get something right in the classroom, like in terms of knowledge acquisition. It will traceable to the kind of parent the child is come from. So this is poor hereditary and train development. Now let's talk about the external barrier now. The external barrier, this is what we can see or feel, and we can also able to recognize as a barrier to effective communication, like noise and other similar distractor. So if the school is located where there's in the garage, maybe, or very close to market, there will be noise, and it could distract the attention of the student. It could affect the lesson, and the communication will also be affected. So another one is polluted environment. If the environment is not conducive, it's dusty, or like kind of smelly in the classroom, could also affect the effective communication, because no one will able to stand in front of the student, or and able to communicate effectively, because the environment is not good. Now the next one is invisibility. Invisibility could be in form of so many things. It could be in form of teachers expression, teacher talking. If the student are saying that, hello sir, please sir, we cannot hear you, so it means the voice is not visible. If the teacher is writing something on the wall, and it's not clear to the student, they cannot see, it's not visible. If the teacher is using chart or some material that are not clear or not bold enough for students, it's not visible. So these are the invisibility, and could cause problem to effective communication. So, and as well, we have environmental and physical discomfort. So this one also affect effective communication, and it happen in our classroom as well. So any moment teacher has question, and the student stand up to answer the question, and the chair on the locker used for to sit down bring noise. So and sitting down back bring noise. So how many times, then it could not be easy for to call a student, one student. It could be four at a time. So this will bring a noise to the class, and this physical discomfort or anytime. And in a classroom where the teacher cannot move round to see this, to at least to be attentive for what is going on in the class. These are referred to as environmental and physical discomfort as part of external barrier. So the next one is improper functioning of the material channel involving audiovisual materials and equipment. So we should make sure that whatever the gadgets or instructional material we are taking to the classroom, they are working effectively. So as a teacher, if this happen when we take a particular gadget to the class and we've not even checked whether it's working or not, and when we get to the class we try to put it on as not working, so it will give, at least it will take some time before we can find solution to it. And if that we find solution to it, at times we don't use it again. So as a teacher, we should, in order not to make it to affect our communication or presentation of the lesson in the class, we should have ensured that they are working very well. The next one is non-cooperative or unhealthy rivalry and the competition among the participants. It's common with the students if we have brilliant students in our class. So if they are not well managed, there could be problem because all of them will try to answer the question very well, and it will affect the effective communication and the instruction in the classroom. And at times among the teachers as well, if they are the two taking a course at the same time, there could be a rivalry between them. So this also affect the communication. We should be careful about that and seek cooperation, good one among ourselves. So the next one is lack of proper motivation, incentive, sale, association needed to remain active on the part of the sender and the receiver. There should be proper motivation. There should be love or good feeling, positive among the receiver and the student. So if the teacher is not well motivated, is not well paid, and we say you should go to the class and teach, he will be doing another thing. All what he's been doing that we are not paying. How can we go there and continue with teaching? So this definitely will affect them. At times when the teacher also asks the students question in the class and they are not appreciated, or they are not motivated or rewarded, it can also affect the effective communication. So the both side, both the receiver and the sender, they need proper motivation and necessary incentive that may require. The next one is poor coding system. So this one happen when the sender encode the message in a way that the receiver will not understand. So if we are sending any information, or if the teacher also teaching in the class in a language where the student cannot understand, definitely they will find it difficult to get the meaning. So these are things also affect the communication effectively. So the next one is inadequate reinforcement. So we should reward whatever we inadequate reinforcement. This can be done with what we refer to as motivation and reward. So if these things are not okay, that is why in a message, when you make call, when you say hello, or hello sir, that sir is a kind of things that we respect, is a kind of motivation, is a sign that the receiver should also respect the person that is calling. So we need to motivate ourselves, we need to reward ourselves, or after the message, if work well, we say, thank you sir, I'm very grateful, thanks for calling. All kind of things, they are very important for effective communication, but when they are not there, they are referred to as external barrier. So the last one is communication of distorted idea or communication. So if the communication or information we are passing are distorted, that is, they are not well structured, they are not well arranged. So and the receiver may find it difficult to understand and get the meaning to the information. So what are the solutions to this barrier? The first one is mastery of subject matter. As a teacher, we need to master our subject. We need to mastery of subject matter is very, very important. It brings about confidence when we are teaching, and the student also will see in us that the teacher knows what he is saying. So the next one is use of appropriate instructional method. we should not stick to one method. If we are teaching and we see that students are dozing, they are trying to sleep, are you getting now? We should change our method. Changing our method from lecture method to demonstration method, moving around the class can help and can help and find solution to this ineffective communication. The next one is use of instructional materials. Instructional materials bring positive to the classroom when they are appropriately used. So when we speak about the level of student, we make use of social material. When there is a problem of lack of information, or if the information are not inadequate, and with the aid of such materials, bring about the effectiveness in our communication. The next one is making the lesson more interesting and lively. We should make our lesson more lively. Not all the time we stick to the board and do the talking. We should ensure, we should find time to, and we should bring something in to our, we inject something into our lesson, so that students also laugh and they share their own experience. So the next one is considering student characteristics. Very important. We should consider student characteristics, their background, their individual differences, so that we know where and how we can solve their problem. So once this one is solved, there will no problem on their own part. We talk about the student can be healed, can be that maybe sick. As a teacher, we can quickly recognize that and take them to the hospital, so that there will not be any barrier or ineffective in our communication. The last one is use of evaluation. As a good teacher, we need to ask good questions. Before the question, we can ask questions. During the question, to see that the student, they are following us, they are grasping what we are saying, and at the end of the lesson, we ask questions. So all these things, when the student knows that you ask them question when they are teaching, so they will be active all through the lesson. So these are the solutions, and they are very important for us to know, so that any time arises of ineffective, we can use them and have effective communication in our classroom or in anywhere we find ourselves. So let's do these class activities in 20 seconds. Discuss how instructional materials can be used in achieving effective communication. Thank you so much. Today we've learned about the principles, and we've talked about the barriers of communication, and by God grace, next week we start another topic for our course materials, and we'll be able to teach ourselves on teaching learning process versus communication. Thank you so much, and God bless you. You are welcome.